What's going on YouTube? Welcome to episode 81 of the U.S.S. Enterprise D tutorial. I'm Zero Elite and I just want to thank you very much for tuning in today's episode. If you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, helping me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. Today we got about a 29-minute episode. We're going to be continuing our work on engineering. We're going to get a good portion of it done today, but we won't be finished with it. And you can see I've got my reference screenshot up. And this is something I definitely recommend doing on any build that you're doing. If you're trying to build something close to accurate off the source material, just do a search on Google. And in this case, search U.S.S. Enterprise D Engineering. And I came across this picture and I figured that this would be a perfect template to really flesh out our engineering area. So without further ado, we're just going to go ahead and jump right into this today. And we're going to be picking up where we left off in yesterday or last week's episode, a week before last, because I was actually on vacation. Those of you that are on my Discord, I put a post up that I was going on vacation. We had actually gone up to Orlando. We went to Disney and had a chance to do the new Galaxy's Edge. And if you haven't done it, um, I can't recommend it enough. I was absolutely blown away by the whole experience. And when we went to Hollywood Studios, we had actually gone into Galaxy's Edge 4 times. The only thing I didn't get to do was go on the new Rise of the Resistance ride, and we were using the Genie Pass. And long story short, the ride broke down. We didn't get a chance to do it, but we did get a chance to do the Millennium Falcon ride, Smuggler's Run, twice. And just the whole experience of that new area in the park was I can't, words don't really do it justice. I was absolutely just blown away by it. So if you haven't gotten a chance to go and you're in the Florida area, or if you're planning on a trip to come down to Florida, or if you're over on the West Coast, I definitely make a trip over to Disney and hit up the new Galaxy's Edge. Definitely worth the money to go. But anyway, getting back into a little bit what we got going on here, you can see that we're using the outline of the white that we just made as a template to go downward, because this is something that we never saw on the show, this area going down underneath the main engineering deck. Now, what I'm doing right now is actually going to inspire me later on um, to flesh out engineering to a couple of decks. And this was honestly my reasoning by it when I saw this screenshot. I just started to think, I'm like, when you start to consider the scale of a Galaxy class, it doesn't make that much sense that this is engineering. That just doesn't add up to me. So we're gonna have to take some creative liberties with that because unfortunately, other than this main deck right here, there really isn't anything for engineering that they showed. But we can use this as an anchor basically to kind of tie everything together as we go deck to deck. So that'll be pretty cool, and we'll be getting into that as we go. Um, and fleshing out our interior, because we've got a lot to do on this build. Not even just engineering, but the rest of the interior as well. We're still not done with the primary shuttle bay, and we got to flesh that out. And then of course we have to wrap up the mall area slash aquarium, and then we haven't even built out the bridge yet. So there's still a ton of work to do. I had somebody ask me the other day if I'm planning on adding a holodeck on the ship, and I 110% fully intend to. I alluded to it a little bit in the comment, and I've talked about this in the past, but one of the cool things I'm going to be doing with this build specifically is that I've got a lot of room to play with this time around. So on at least one of the holodeck rooms, I'm going to be fleshing it out as an activated room, and I'm going to build out one of the Dixon Hill episodes when they're walking through the city in the 1930s. I think that'll actually be really cool, and I'm looking forward to getting that out for you guys to see. But we have a lot of stuff to do before we get there. Because, like I've said in the past, this build is just massive. So it's taking a little bit of time to render all of this out. But you know what? I'd rather take my time with it and have the tutorial up so other people can be able to do this if they want to, or have whether you want to copy what I did directly or just use it as a loose reference, it's all cool. But at least this content will be out there for you. So I'm really looking forward to having this out for everybody, especially when it's done. Because once it is done, we'll be hopping over into Voyager and then working on other builds. Um, I'm going to be, as we're getting closer to the end of the Enterprise D, I'm going to put a poll up on my Discord for what the next build's going to be after Voyager. So, if you are not on my Discord, now would be a good time to join because uh, going forward, um, what I'm going to be doing to gauge what ships I'm going to be doing next, I'm going to be taking the suggestions that I'm getting from Discord and also the comments in the comment section on YouTube and using that to create polls to see what ships people want to see me do next. I'm going to do that based off of popular demand and then just do it that way going forward. I think that'll be a little bit easier for me rather than going through all the comments and tallying everything up. It'll be also an easier way for people to be able to engage with me as well. So I'm really looking forward to that. So definitely join the Discord because we got some cool things coming with the Discord as well. And I'll have a link in the description below so this way you guys can join. Now, one of the things I'm trying to build right now is these two tubes on each side of the main warp core. But this is one of these scenarios where I've talked about this, that sometimes what you're building, it doesn't always translate that well into Minecraft. So you have to make some type of exception with it. So basically what we're coming across is which direction do we want to go in. I don't mean that as a pun, but that's literally where we're at. Do we want a straightaway line or do we want it going at a curve? Um, these are some things to think about right now. I think ultimately what I end up deciding on is a straightaway because I think the straightaway just looks a little bit cleaner. I would have liked to have had it going at an angle, but that cut line, it just, I don't know, it just doesn't look right. This is sometimes, why it's so good to have something down because it gives you um, something to physically look at, to gauge, to look at it and think, okay, what is missing, what's working about this, what's not working about this. And I think in this case is that it just doesn't look all that nice looking at it from the front. It looks better with the straightaway. So there's going to be a slight variation with that because I do believe that we are going to go back and change that. um, but these are things that you're going to have to do when you're working on your builds. It's just inevitably going to happen on Minecraft. Sometimes you're going to have to take little exceptions here and there to make it work based on what you have to work with, and also taking into account that we're working with blocks and we don't have 3D objects to actually build out a cylinder going back at a perfect angle. Now, if this were in like a game like Starship Evo, we'd be able to do a little bit better, but I think that's one of the interesting challenges about Minecraft is that you don't have these 3D objects to work with, so you're constricted to working with blocks, and it's okay. How do we make this work within that block form? Another thing that we'll have a problem with is like this blue strip on each side of the main warp core. Um, but again, we're just going to have to make it work and use what we got, and we're going to mess with this area just a little bit here until we come up with something that works. And we're not going to spend too much more time working on the main warp core today. I think we're going to mess with this just a little bit longer, and then we're going to move on to adding in our walls and everything to really try to get a lot of this outline done for engineering. So this way in the future episodes we can come back, detail it, and then we also have to add in our hallways on either side of engineering because that's going to be something else too. And I honestly, when I first started building the engineering, I started to think about them like, man, like, because when you think about it, our main turbo lift is right behind this wall right here. And then I started to think like, okay, well, how are we going to go from this main deck and be able to get behind here? Because with these tubes that we're adding in with the warp core, it's not like we'll be able to walk around the warp core to get to this back area. So what I ended up having to do was these two main corridors right here. I ended up stretching them out and bringing them along the sides. Um, and basically making a giant U going around this. So this way we could have access to the backside of the engineering and be able to utilize the whole rear section of the ship. This is why it's so important sometimes, to stop sometimes, plan out what you're doing, and really think about how that's going to work because I promise you, you start thinking like that, it's going to save you not only from not even just making mistakes, just basically retreading and backpedaling to reconstruct an area that you've already built out to make it work, because maybe you didn't factor in, like, oh crap, now I don't have a way to get to the back of my ship. So that's why it's kind of important to plan some of this stuff out as we go. So that's kind of why we're going almost at a crawl space or pace at this point. So this way we can plan all this stuff out and try to foresee it as much as we can while we're building this out. um, because this is, again, this is what's going to separate the boys and girls from the men and women as far as where your builds are at. You really want that consistency and that flow to go through your ship, so it feels like it's one well thought out build, as opposed to just random rooms that are connected and random hallways and this, that, or whatever. um, that's something that I really try to convey, at least with this build and all of my builds that I've done in the past as well. But also, if you do have problems, just take it as a learning experience and use it, and use that information that you got off this build for your next build. Um, Everybody's got to start somewhere, and this is something that I've really tried to take to heart on my builds, and I try to really apply that on every build that I do. I think about what I did wrong in the last build. I'll even run around my last build just to look at some of the things that I did and think about, okay, what did I like about this? What didn't I like? What can I do to make this better on the next build? So these are definitely things to think about while we're working on these different areas of the ship. And I feel it's important to talk about this stuff, especially for the people that maybe um, this is your first build or one of your first builds. Because that's the thing with these starship builds, it doesn't seem like it's that much work, but it ends up being a heck of a lot of planning if you want your ship to be detailed and close as possible to being accurate to the actual ship that we're using as a reference here. And in this case, the Enterprise D. And of course, we're working on our lighting to go down engineering, this main hallway right here. So we just want to make sure that our lighting stays consistent, because you want these themes to carry on when you go room to room. This way it feels, again, consistent with what you're doing, so it doesn't feel out of place. Doesn't feel like it now, but this area will come out pretty good. What we're actually going to have to do is this main hall work area that I have right here. Right now it's kind of thin, and we're going to end up widening it, making it a little bit wider. I don't think we'll do it in today's episode. I believe that's something that I came back and I did later on, and that was because I really wanted to have a desk here in the middle for where they could work, because that was such an important area that they would constantly be at on the show. You could almost guarantee that anytime they were in engineering, they were doing something, it was either going to be in one of two places, either on this desk right here or on this console right here. 9 times out of 10, that's where it's at. Every once in a while, they'd be somewhere different, but those were pretty much the two showcased areas that they would be at the most. So that was something that I really tried to take into consideration when I was working on the ship, um, thinking about how I could incorporate that, because at my first go around, um, again, we didn't have the desk. Now we're in the main turbo lift, and you can see I took out the wall back here, and this blue, we can't remove that because that's going right into the deflector dish. So we have to have that wall there. There's just going to be no way around it. You can see this middle cut right here, that's going to be our doorway. Then the sides will be like the consoles right here. So you can see literally what we're building. We have our main door, and on each side there's a console. I was going to have one here as well, but taking away this back wall here, we can't put a computer screen there, because it would be bleeding into the turbo lift. So for that reason, I decided to take it out on this back wall right here. It would have been great to have it, but at the end of the day, it's not really going to impede on the build too much. Unless we move this whole area over by one, which we could do because we have the room to do it, but then we would have to kind of restructure this whole area. And I think for right now, we'll come back and we'll use the grid pixel generator, or excuse me, the grid pixel pack blocks to for the blue later on. But right now, just for stand-ins, we'll have the blue there. Of course, we got our orange doors. And then we'll taper it off with half slabs. Now, see, that looks pretty good, but again, this room right now that we're in is very narrow. So we don't really have enough room here to put a desk if we wanted to. We really have to widen up this area a little bit more than what it's at if we want to put in a desk. If you don't want to put in a desk, and you just want to have that to be a walkway to get down and showcase your warp core, you can leave it the way it is. But that's going to be something that we are going to be doing here. We're pretty much going to use the same template that we have right now, but we'll be kind of stretching it out just a little bit. Now, what I'm doing right now with the brown concrete blocks, using that as the brown carpeting, I don't know if this is going to stay. I did it obviously because of the reference picture here, and I could be wrong, but and I do believe that at least in one or two of the episodes that they did have the brown carpeting, but I don't think that that was something that stayed. I want to say that that changed. Um, so I don't know if this is going to be something that I'm going to change or not. Basically, I'm not quite sure how I feel about the brown carpeting in the floor. Doesn't look bad though. Yeah, and see, the only problem here, if we did the half slabs there, it's gonna not only cover up the lights here, um, but it's making this whole area feel very tight. But again, what we're gonna do to combat that is to stretch out this walkway here to make it just a little bit wider, at least by 1 or 2 blocks. All right, and now we're just going to be doing an outline in the white terracotta going around our wall here, which is basically right over in this section right here. And then we're going to be filling that in with the brown. Even though when you go over here, it's the white or the cream, I decided that I didn't want to have it all be one color because, especially when you look over on this side, you can really see it. It all just kind of bleeds in together. And like in the picture here, it doesn't look bad, but on Minecraft, like, I don't know, it just doesn't translate that well. And then the other thing here with the railing that we added in earlier on in the episode, that's going to be something else that we're going to end up taking out. Now we're adding in our walls here, going along engineering, the main warp core on the sides, but we're not doing the back just yet. I do believe we're going to close all this off today, But yeah, because we're going to do the back wall and then we're going to do the roof in here, but then we're going to come back and open this roof up, and then the warp core here in the middle, we're going to bring that up, going all the way up to kind of flesh out a little bit more the other engineering decks. And you can see this block here, this white concrete, or not white concrete, that's actually the white quartz. We can't get rid of that. So we're either going to have to build around it or we're going to have to cover it up with the white terracotta, which is probably going to be the easiest thing to do, which is just cover it up. Now, some of these rows here, we can get rid of them, but we just have to be careful as we're doing. See, like right there, we can't get rid of that last block. But we can shave it back a little bit in certain areas just to free up just a little bit more room that we have to work with, which we're definitely going to be doing. Because as far as the sides go and the floors, we really don't have any problems with room, but when we get into the upper areas here, where the neck blends in with the lower hull, we're going to have to work with that and shave away little bits and pieces here and there to kind of try to make it work and free up just a little bit more room where we can. You can see along here, I'm just going to be going with a cut line along this wall line right here. One of the other things I noticed too, after I had the walls in, is I was looking at this picture and noticed that the back wall here is almost like a cream orangey color, and that's going to be something that we're going to be incorporating into the actual back wall here, because once I had this whole room done, it was very creamy with the white terracotta, and I wanted to kind of um, liven it up just a little bit with more colors. So I ended up going with rather than kind of like a cream orange, going with a regular orange. Not the whole back wall, but strips of orange just to kind of liven it up just a little bit. So we're going four back on the wall, and then going in one with a cut, and then just bringing it back. And again, you know, we can make changes to this, but it's just important to kind of get something together right now to see if what I just built, for one, if it's going to work, and then again what we're going to need to make changes to. Yeah, because as soon as we put this back wall up, that main corridor that I have going the straightaway that's going back to the secondary turbo lift in the lower hull, there's just no way to get back there right now. So we're going to have to build out that U corridor that I was talking about that's going to wrap around engineering in order to get back there. And it'll actually be kind of cool because when this whole area is said and done, there's going to be at least 3 turbo lifts. There's going to be one behind the warp core and then one on each side. You can see that row there where you can't get rid of that. That needs to stay. So what we might just do is just have this being the ceiling level. You see how I did that to blend that in? I just went with the cut line and just did it one row at a time. Now we'll go with the cut line again, going along our outline here to blend it all in together. But again, bear in mind that a lot of what we're doing right now, we're going to make some slight adjustments to this when we open up the center here, because we're going to be closing up the ceiling in today's episode. But we will come back in future episode and we're going to open that back up. It may be this week, it may not be until later on in the build. I'm trying to remember when exactly I did that, but also take into account that I've been working on this thing since February, so some of it's starting to all bleed together. So forgive me if I'm incorrect a little bit as far as when we'll be doing that. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think that we do this and then what we're doing right now, and we might take a break from engineering, or I'm trying to remember if we did that or if we finished engineering and then went on to the bridge. But it's either one or the other. Yeah, see that look, but that looks pretty good because that what we have going on right here, this kind of looks like we did it on purpose. And now just to kind of um, mix it up a little bit, this top row here we'll be going with a cut line, and then we'll just be filling that in with the white concrete. But again, also bear in mind that this ceiling that we're adding in now, we are going to be taking this out. Yeah, because once we close that in, like, I don't know, it makes engineering look incredibly small. And I think that was one of the things too that also led me to fleshing it out more and making it larger, is that I wanted to make engineering feel bigger, but also while staying true to the reference material that we have to work with. At least for the purpose of today's episode, we're going to get the rest of the ceiling closed in. And I think that might actually end up wrapping us up today. We might do one or two things after that, but we're pretty much done today. We'll have to get some more lighting in here because it is kind of dark now that we closed in the ceiling. We'll have to get some sea lanterns and throw those down. And we're just going to put them anywhere right now just so we have the light. And then we'll come back and we'll give them a permanent home once we start doing all the detailing. Yeah, and then we also need to close up this floor on the back side here. And then we'll be in pretty good shape. So if you've gotten this far with me, you should be feeling pretty accomplished. We pretty much got our main outline done for engineering. Um, aside from making the tweaks that we're going to be making to it, and then getting our detailing done. But this is going to give us a great template to go off of, and I'm really excited for you guys to see where this is going to go. I think that engineering, when it's all said and done, came out fantastic. I'm really happy with how it turned out. And what else can I say? I'm really looking forward to showing off this area specifically of the ship, because even with the um, tweaks that I make to it, I think that it's spot on to the next generation. It's it really came out fantastic. Yeah, see, this looks great. All right, I think that's going to wrap us up today. So I just want to thank you all again for tuning in today's episode. And if you haven't, please don't forget to join the Discord. I'll have a link down in the description below. Definitely appreciate everybody joining, and this will be a great place for you to meet other people within the community. You'll be able to post your builds. So if you're having trouble and you have questions, be sure to drop a comment below or post your questions in Discord. If you need to post it with a picture, I'll try to help you out if I can, or if you just have any questions, comments, or just dropping by to say hey, or any builds you want to see. Definitely love from hearing from everybody. And also, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button as we make our way to 1,000 subscribers. Don't forget, we've got the U.S.S. Enterprise A 2016 tutorial coming up once we hit 1,000 subscribers. So I'm really looking forward to that. And this is a build I've promised for a long time. So hopefully those of you that have been with me since the beginning that have wanted this build, definitely help. If you could help me out, share some of my videos with your friends to get a couple more subscribers. Definitely appreciate that. Yeah, I think that's going to wrap us up today. I just want to thank you all again for tuning in today's episode, and I hope everybody has a happy and safe week. And I'll catch you on the next episode.